live from the subarctic, and live being the key word. He asked why I was wearing this sweatshirt, and 4 years ago, a little over 4 years ago, I retired from consulting. I was home doing nothing, and I thought, hey, let me clean up the yard. Let me do this. We have 2 acres. And so I was doing stuff, and I needed to start a fire, and there was some issues with it burning. So I needed to give it some help. And I took a shower in gasoline, and was lit on fire. I was a human torch. Well, this sweatshirt, which I got at Walmart for like $7.99, is cotton, so it didn't burn. My blue jeans didn't burn. I was wearing leather gloves, so I did get 2nd-degree burns on my leg, and my lower leg is all gooned up still because of that. But that's why I got into writing, because I couldn't be trusted to doing manly man stuff like starting fires with gasoline. Which, don't ever do that. It's really bad. Use kerosene, or just hire somebody else to do it. So this saved my life, because it was doused in gasoline, but it wouldn't burn. So just surface topically burned off, and so I'm wearing this until it completely rats out and falls apart, because it saved my life and it started my writing career.
I have to say it looks good, and that is a great story. So thank you for sharing that. And now I can see why one of the themes of your writing, or at least your post-apocalyptic writing, is stuff gets really bad really quickly. Because when you're just out trying to light a fire and you set yourself on fire, that's there's something going on there.
Oh, I remember the Dick Van Dyke Stop, Drop, and Roll, because I looked down, I was completely on fire, and it's instant panic. And when you panic, you only remember very, very simple things. And so I threw myself, it's Alaska, right? So I threw myself into a snowbank and rolled, and I could get most of it out except on my leg, because the lower part of my leg had gotten the most of the gasoline, and it was completely soaked, and it just wouldn't go out. And so I'm trying to pat it out with my gloved hands and dumping snow on it. And then I'm outside, I take my pants off, and my skin is just peeling away. It was really, it was a great time to be inside and writing.
And so a life-changing moment for you. You could either spend a lot more time in the hospital as you try and hone your manly man skills, or you could decide you could become a writer.
Yes, and that was it. Simple as that. No, I actually never went to the hospital. I'm like, okay, they're going to put dry gauze on it. They're going to do this. They're going to ask me what the hell I was doing, and I don't want to answer that question. I'd rather wait 4 years and do it in public where everybody can hear.
Exactly. And that's a Marine thing, because I've got a friend who was a Marine, and he fell on a fishing boat and landed on something and had this big gash in his arm. And I'm like, I don't see any stitches there. And he's like, no, I mean, there was some skin hanging there, and I cut it off, and then I taped it up, and I'm good. It's like, all right, I guess that's the way you guys roll.
That's when I did my exit physical from the Marine Corps, 20 years, right? Hey, good Marine, all beat up. She said, you still have a broken leg, as she was going through my medical record. And I'm like, well, that follow-up appointment with the doc didn't exactly work for me, so I cut it off myself. I cut off the cast myself. And she said, has it healed? It's been like 7 years. I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. So that was, that was my exit, my medical exit brief.
After that, I'm sure they couldn't wait to get you out of there.
Yes. And the thing was, because I was an officer when I retired, the person who did my exit brief was actually the head of the hospital, an Army colonel, a female colonel about 5'1", and she's looking at me and she's rolling her eyes. And I'm like, I actually deserve this. Because she said, you had a broken hand, that you didn't follow. I'm like, no, I didn't follow up on that either. You had a broken leg. You didn't. No, I didn't follow.
So we're going to be talking about books today. We're getting into it, and Craig has really set this up brilliantly, because that's the kind of great thinker he is. He's written a series. Some of you will be familiar with it, and there's a new book coming out. But it actually came out yesterday, because this will be releasing the day after The Art of Smuggling is released. But so you're talking about the completion of your military career. you know, the incomplete nature of your health care while you were in the Marines, and then
Incomplete because of me, not because
yes,
of any problems with the military healthcare.
yes, and so then somehow or other you became an attorney.
Yeah.
So what's the story there? That you didn't set yourself on fire or anything between the two instances?
Now, I had a job that was less than gratifying. I went and worked for the Department of Homeland Security after I retired, and I saw some things. I'm like, there's no way this stuff is legal from the government side, and so I'm like, I can't be a part of this. So I left and said I'll go to law school because I think it's not legal, but I need to know why. And so, yeah, 3 years law school, graduated summa cum laude, hooray for me. Got into business consulting then, because that JD, having a doctorate, and it's a Juris Doctor, got me into the corner offices because the consulting company required at least a master's degree because of having to get people into the corner office. Working with CEOs in Fortune 500 companies, you can't have, let's say, folks who aren't more, and I don't want to use the term, well, I guess worldly, but well-educated, because you have to deal at CEO level. Now, other folks can, but it was an easy discriminator because otherwise they had too many applicants. So took that, passed some pretty strenuous interviews, and got into the corner office and worked business consulting. So that's what I did, and traveled way too much. Got paid really, really well, but traveled way too much. And finally, I had enough of that and wanted to be home.
And so then you became a writer. You wrote a lot of post-apoc, space opera, any number of different things, but nothing where the main character was an attorney until this new series, Judge, Jury, and Executioner, which launched about a year ago, I think. Yeah, and
yes.
This is one of your favorite series.
I love this series because it brings together everything from my background. They do some combat situations because people don't necessarily appreciate a lawyer coming in and with the title of Judge, Jury, and Executioner. She's not just going to go in and try the case. She can find them guilty and she can punish them. So she has her team, and people can be fairly combative. So I roll in my Marine experience. I was intelligence in the Marine Corps. So how do you get the information, which actually works well as a lawyer? How do you consolidate all this information and make it concise into a brief and fit it within the legal code? So I do that, but now I keep that really mild. I don't want to kill people with legalese, even though I do throw in Latin every now and then, but just very small. And I define it for you, and we move on. So it's a little bit of Judge Dredd meets Boston Legal. But so my favorite characters, and their banter, because this team is so disparate. With you have the legal eagle, who was the head of her class, and how she deals with the legal issues when the rest of her team, Red, people ask me about Red. And I'm a huge Firefly fan, all 13, 14 episodes. And that's Alec Baldwin in Serenity. So if you want any kind of a visualization of Red, just put it in Alec Baldwin's voice and you got it.
So why a female protagonist for this series? Because your earlier series, I don't know that anything you've written that's non-LMBPN has a female protagonist. Maybe. Is this
no?
So why a female protagonist for this one?
It actually didn't matter. It was just she had been a character in a previous one. I just brought her in, and for that scene, the one small scene, I needed somebody who was shorter. So I made it a female because just shorter, right? And so there's the generalization. Nobody get mad. Nobody get mad. In my mind. So, and that character, and she became a popular character, even though just a small cameo. And it's like, hey, let's do that. Let's take that character and make a whole new series.
Interesting.
So simple as that. Was simply because I needed a short person because of the relationship to the bar in the visuality of that scene.
And you're just publishing the 7th book in a series featuring that character from a decision you made a few years ago based on the height of a character.
Yep. That was it.
And you have this is part of the Kurtherian universe. And there's some crossover from the Bad Company series, which goes all the way back to Terry Henry Walton, the Terry Henry Walton Chronicles.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you just? Well, I guess because she was a character in
Yeah.
probably in one of the Bad Company stories. Is
Yes,
where she turned up.
Exactly. That's when Terry Henry Walton won all of those credits because of his not swearing. I wrote one book where he didn't swear because I mean the creative swearing, humorous. That's all. We have it as the disclaimer on the
Yes.
blurbs. But that one is like, hey, I'm going to write a book where they don't swear, and you'll notice actually in Executioner 7, the book that came out yesterday now, that I tapered it way back, and just so I wanted to see if the fans would notice, and so Terry Henry Walton, they started betting. Hey, no way, you can't go days without swearing. You can't go minutes without swearing. And so he won, and he won all these credits and bought a bar with his money. So All Guns Blazing, but All Guns Blazing is a franchise now. You have legal people involved because the franchisee has to follow the rules for the franchise. So that's where we introduced Rivka as the Queen's barrister.
And how about you personally? I'm going to assume that the swearing toned down a little bit between the Marines and your gig as a consultant, but then you become an author and you start working with Michael Anderle. So
I was fine. My first 9 books had no swearing in them. And then came Michael, and he's like, oh, hey, man, you might have to ratchet that up a little bit. And I'm like, well, I'm Marine. I actually used my lifetime quota of the F-bomb during my 20 years in the Marine Corps. So I actually don't have any left. And he said, I bet you do. I bet there's some in there.
Yeah, and you learned all these cool new words in law school, and then you just had to go back. You had to go back to those the days of yore.
Yeah. Because as a business consultant dealing with CEOs and in the corner offices, I know some of our guys did, but I personally avoided that because trying to ratchet up the professionalism. Because these CEOs, they had to go to, like, one had to run off to Washington D.C. to meet with the president's staff on funding for the carrier, for the CVN 78, for the Gerald R. Ford. And you don't talk to him and be dropping F-bombs and stuff, and then he's going to run up in D.C. I mean, and because this was a while ago, and no, there's better ways to do that and better ways to communicate. You make every word count.
How did you come up with the theory? I mean, the whole idea of judge, jury, and executioner.
I wanted a character who could do it all, because otherwise, if she could only do part of it, then I would be strapped into having to then go capture people and drag them off to a place where we would have to conduct a trial. And that would drag the story down and be boring as hell. So I wanted something, I wanted to shortcut that process. We could still have trials. And I did that in Executioner 6, which was very, very well received. I think that was considered one of my best books ever by the readership. The readers loved that book and they loved that story. And about half of it, 30,000 words, I think, was the trial part of it, because it was ancillary. It was bigger than just Rivka, the magistrate within the series. So we did a little bit of that in book 7, a little bit of court case, but still it's the chase, the hunt. This one's a little bit of a whodunit. And so I enjoyed that, and I'm seeing some of the JIT comments ancillary from my insider team, and they said they do really like it. They liked how it turned out. They saw it through about 15,000 words, and it ended up at 66,000. I usually get them involved through the first half just to make sure that it's on track. And then I pull it away and I do the rest of it. And then they see it when it pops up in JIT to read the rest of it.
Well, this seems to be the rare series that's growing in popularity. Most series, they start out at a certain level, and then after you get to, you mentioned the 6th book, the last book, people saying this is the best one. In a lot of cases, by the 6th book, the interest is waning in a series. But book 6 for you really, really amped up the interest in the series again.
It did. It was a huge win. And Michael Anderle and I was talking when we were storming Area 51, which we did. I have the vodka. Hang on.
And while Craig is doing that, I can share a story that someone was asking me where Michael was one time, and I said, believe it or not, he and Craig are at Area 51 today. And oh, that's nice.
Yes,
That's nice.
we bought souvenirs. We stormed
Of
the
course
hell
you
out
did.
of the
Of
Area
course you
51
did.
souvenir shop and visited the bathroom because it's a long ass drive to get out there, and I drank too much coffee. So
And
the
you know, you were in town in Las Vegas on business. You're busy. Michael's busy, and you guys took a day to go to Area 51.
We were there getting ready for the conference, something that we do separate. So we spent a lot of time together over the course of 3 days, and most of it telling butt jokes and stuff that really off color, and having a good time, eating too much. But one thing that he said, he keeps asking me, "What is your real goal? What is your goal?" And I said, "I want that one book that will sell 100,000 copies." And he said, "Your last book, it's the sixth in the series, but can you make it a standalone?" So I am going to take Fratricide and rewrite it as a standalone, even though it'll still be Rivka, it'll still be 95% of book 6, but it's going to be standalone. So I need to go back in and make sure that I tweak it, and anything Crotherian Gambit canon is explained more, as opposed to just assuming that people know stuff. And then we're gonna hit that and present it as like a second edition of Fratricide. It won't be book 6. It'll just be Judge, Jury, and Executioner, Fratricide.
Well, that's one of the things that I really admire about both you and Michael is this willingness to try things. And I mean, that's something completely different.
Mm-hmm. Well, just because the whole story, that it's like iRobot in its intensity of the issue that's discussed, and in a way that's fresh. So the readership, that one, I think we're up to 82 reviews on book 6, which is right behind and closing in on book 2.
Yeah,
Of the
which is
series.
amazing. Yeah, normally you can
Yes.
just see the decrease in reviews as the series gets longer.
Yep.
But yeah, this one is just like it. There was the normal dip, and then shoo, starts shooting back up again.
Yeah, because people are saying, "Hey, look at this," and also that 1 to 4 book, putting books 1 to 4 into a box set. I think that changed the dynamic a little bit because it enabled people to get into the series. And as we've seen from all of our data, if somebody gets to book 3, they keep reading. And that's and because at that point, it's like they're invested in the characters, and these characters continue to grow. The banter in the latest book, I think, is some of the best ever. So once you go to book 6, you'll I hope love it. Leave a review, and then go to book 7 and say, I love these characters. I want to be on the ship with them, hanging out in the galley while they're complaining about the food. And
yeah,
and I actually wrote the first 2 pages of book 8 yesterday.
Oh, really? You're on it.
Well, I was working with my insider team, and I said, how about this for a plot idea? Because I really didn't have anything in mind. And they said, "Hey, I love that." And I'm like, and I asked them, "What are the open loops from book 7? What plot things did I leave hanging?" I just wanted to see. I left one that might have been kind of major. I didn't think it was. I thought I answered it, and they didn't find that one, so I guess I didn't leave it. The one I was worried about. But they brought up about 5 or 6 others, and I'm like, "Oh, okay. I will continue the story and of course address those." And one of them was big right up front. I'm like, "That one, I got to write that scene right now," and I did.
Okay, you mentioned a conference coming up. A lot of people who are fans of LMBPN, fans of Craig Martelle, know that you put on this conference that's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger as the years go by. This is a worldwide thing, but the original home of the conference is Las Vegas.
Yes.
And this year, how many registrants do you have?
Oh, 1,100. And you know who registered today?
And didn't you cut it off at 1,000?
I did. I cut it off at 1,000. But once Michael and I went and met with the hotel, we can easily handle 1,100. So we're up to almost 1,100. And the general manager for ACX registered. He's coming.
Holy cow! Wow. Yeah. So this is. I'm pretty sure this is not hyperbole, but this is the biggest indie conference in the world, right? Indie author conference in the world.
By far.
Yeah, by a large margin. Yeah.
Yes.
And how many countries have you had this in so far, where you've had either a 20 books to 50K meetup or an actual conference?
Oh, geez, we've done meetups in London, We've had we had a conference in London, a conference in Edinburgh, Scotland. We had one in Adelaide. We've got coming up, Australia. We had one in Bali, Indonesia. We've done Vegas. This will be the third time. And then we also did a luncheon in New Zealand. Michael has done one in Germany. So all around the world, wherever we go, there are 20 books people, there are fans, and we try to set something up. Oh, we did Woodland Hills too. Not quite Burbank, definitely not in LA, unless you want to argue about it, then LA too. It was a very long name for that conference. 20 books, Woodland Hills, yeah.
All right. So if you're signed up for the conference, it's going to be fun. It's always fun. First conference was what, like 160 or something like that?
That's what we planned for, but we scaled up. We had 420 actually at that first conference.
Oh, for the first one? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean,
we planned for 160
grown.
because we asked and people came on board like, oh, okay, hey, it's only $100. I mean, and because we've had to grow, it's only up to 140 for 3 full days.
Yes, and that's one of the things that's amazing about this conference. There are lots of author conferences around the country, around the world, that are extremely expensive for a 3-day conference. This is held. You've chosen a hotel purposely that's not super expensive, so that indie authors who are not making a fortune can afford to come and stay. It's less than $150 for the conference itself. There are some meals included. It's just amazing. It's an amazing value in the education that you get, and you're recording everything, and you just make all this stuff available. It's incredible.
Yeah. Actually, we're recording we're recording, I think 55 or 60 sessions that then are going to be available on YouTube. Anybody can watch them. So these presentations, we're not going to charge. We can't charge for them because each presenter, that's their intellectual property. So I'm not going to hassle with any of that. It's available for free on the 20 Books Vegas Facebook group, as well as it'll be free on YouTube after the show whenever we get to uploading it.
And I remember at the close of the first 20 books, and maybe you do this at every event. I'm not sure about this, but at the close of the first show, you went up on stage and said, "Well, we accidentally made a profit of X." I forget what it was. It might have been a few $100s because the expenses were a little bit less than you thought. So it's like, we're writing a check to this. I don't remember who it was, but essentially you just gave the money to charity. This is not a money-making event, despite the incredible amount of time that you put into it.
It's in London. We were actually way over because when you hold something in London, when they tell you it's 10 pounds, and then by the end of the day, it's still 10 pounds. In Vegas, if they tell you it's $10, by the end of the day, it's 20. So I used that estimate when we did London. In London, no, I had 8,000, 7,000 pounds left over.
Oh my gosh.
And so we just refunded everybody 50 pounds. Like, here, take your money back. Because it was like 7,500 pounds we had left over, because I had used the Vegas model of whatever they tell you, add 30%. So
if you're listening to this,
we gave it back.
If you're listening to this and thinking, man, I really need to come to this conference, you do need to come next year. But you need to jump on it quickly. How long did it take to sell out the conference this year?
We sold out in 31 minutes. In March, 8 months before the show, we sold out in 31 minutes.
Yes. So you need to be following. I mean, there obviously there's a Facebook group. There's the 20 Books Vegas website. You need to know when this is going to open up so that you can jump on it right away, because it closes quickly. And we were 400 more? You were 400 more registrations this year than last year, or 500 now maybe.
Yeah. Because we registered 1,000 people that day.
Yeah. So it's incredible. I'm really looking forward to it because I get to just go and hang out. I don't have to work like a dog 19 hours a day. And I'm probably not including enough hours in the day for you while you're there.
Yeah, I run out of hours before I run out of stuff to do in Vegas. But it'll be a great show. We've got some great rooms. We've got some great presenters. We have the thing that's overwhelming this year is industry professionals. Like Tantor is bringing 3. They just registered their 3 people. Ron Formica, their head of acquisitions, is leading that team. So look for him. We're still working. Hopefully Dreamscape will be able to join us, but and
Podium's there. I mean, these are all
Podium is
audiobook
there.
vendors. Yeah.
Yep, Podium is there. Tantor's there. ACX is there. They're head of ACX, and also Audible. The look at Written Word Media, Free Booksy, Bargain Booksy, for if you're a member of either one of those lists.
I didn't know they were coming. I did not know that.
Well, they're still out. They might bring 2 people, and I'll know. Today's Friday. I'm supposed to know today.
Okay. So this is going to be big. If you're count yourself lucky if you're going to be there this year, and if not, really make plans to try and come next year. If you're an author, yeah.
We're scaling up to 1,500 for 2020. So look for that growth, and hopefully we'll be able to get everybody registered, and it'll be okay, and we won't have wailing and gnashing of teeth for people who missed the sign up.
Yes, or we won't have wailing and gnashing of teeth for Steve when he has to come and beg you to squeeze somebody in, because I have to tell you, that's painful to try.
Oh yeah, it should be. It should be. You should offer more. There's
maybe that's the problem. So to recap the book part of this Behind the Fiction episode, and yes, I'm sort of mesmerized by that now. So we've been talking about Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Craig mentioned there is a box set available for the first 4 volumes, or the first 4 titles in the series. Book 7, The Art of Smuggling, was released yesterday. And Craig, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on all your success as an author. Congratulations on not killing yourself when you set yourself on fire with that shirt. And look forward to chatting with you again.
It was a catalyst for great things, man. That's what I like to think. So I love this sweatshirt. It has saved. One thing. It saved my life. So yes. I love this sweatshirt, man.
Craig Martelle, thanks for being here.
Thank you.